Good evening, Bill. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So let's talk about what happened at the uh, school board meeting.
Okay. Well, as you know, and many people in Center Grove know, last year under then board president Jack Russell, there was a bylaw change where the only way a member of the public could speak was if they spoke on one of the agenda items.
Right.
That was on the board agenda. Knowing this, I was a little deceptive. I signed up to speak on one of the agenda items, knowing that that was the only way that I'd be recognized to speak. And once I was recognized to speak, I got up and I apologized for the deception, and then said that I would not be speaking about textbook rentals. And I had prepared a short little, not a speech, but I had organized some thoughts that I wanted to speak on.
Right.
And I got one sentence out before all of the members of the board, the superintendent included, started shouting, "You can't speak about that." And I said, "I absolutely can." And before I had started speaking, I had passed out a packet of papers, which included the Parent Education Bill of Rights from our state attorney general,
Right.
An article from the National School Board Association where it said that parents had a right to speak about anything under the purview of the school board, and even case law from the Sixth Circuit Court saying that where they had ruled saying that it was a violation of the First Amendment for school boards to censor the public's speech,
right,
essentially. So case law, School Board Association, and Parent Bill of Rights all said that I basically could speak my right or speak my mind, and that I had a right to question our elected officials as to what was going on in our schools.
Right.
And I had some questions, and as soon as they knew what I wanted to speak on, they shut it down immediately. They adjourned the meeting, and I told them, I said, "That's fine. I'll be here when you guys get back." So I sat quietly and patiently for about 15, 20 minutes, apparently long enough for Joe Hubbard to call the sheriff's department. And apparently as soon as the sheriff's department got there, the board came back in. The sheriff's department waited out in the hallway. As soon as the board came back in, started making their way back to their seat, I went back up to the podium because they were going to resume the meeting, and I hadn't used my 3 minutes yet.
Okay.
They had only adjourned the meeting. They didn't cancel it. So I got ready to speak again, and Joe Hubbard said that they were going to conclude the public comments and they were going to go on to the consent items. And I said I hadn't finished speaking and that I was allotted 3 minutes and I'd only got out one sentence. And they said, "You're done speaking." And I said, "No, I most certainly am not." And they said, "You need to go sit down. You're done speaking." And I said, "No, I have a right to be heard." And I was recognized to speak and I'm not done. And they said, "So you're not going to go sit down?" And I said, "Not until I'm done speaking." And then they waved in 2 sheriff deputies who escorted me out on the grounds of trespassing. Wow. And that's a violation of the law. You cannot be trespassed from a public building unless you've broken the law. And I did not break any law.
Right.
It was a public meeting in a public building funded by tax dollars. I had a right to be there. I was recognized to speak. Yes, I was a little deceptive to be recognized to speak, but that's because they've tied our hands in such a way that you have to game the system, otherwise you're completely boxed out.
Right.
And it's well, I mean, you know better than any of us that that's communism.
Right. Exactly.
they're acting like, what's the term? Commissars or whatever.
Oh, commissars.
You know, and if you don't speak the party approved message, they call in the authorities to have you carried off.
Oh yeah, and you'll be sent into a re-education camp.
And if I didn't peacefully walk out, I would have gone to the Johnson County Jail. And wow, that's totally ridiculous.
It is. It is. And have you talked to with Attorney General's office?
I have not. I spoke to the it's a counselor, the access counselor, I think is what they're called. And they told me how to file a formal complaint.
Right.
And I'm still gathering information. There's a couple things that I'll be filing a complaint on. One of which is their failure to release documentation. One of the incident that I was going to speak on, there was actually a female student that was raped in April. And prior to the rape, there was harassment and inappropriate touching. And the victim reported that to staff. And in the state of Indiana, all staff members of educational facilities are mandatory reporters. They are required by law to report it to DCS and law enforcement.
Okay.
That never happened.
Is that happened in school or outside school, that incident?
So the inappropriate touching and the harassment happened inside school on school grounds. And it was reported in school.
Okay.
And it never got reported. And I have conversations with the Center Grove police chief who confirmed that it wasn't until after the rape happened, and the rape happened outside of school.
Okay.
And to be as correct as possible, I will say the alleged rape. It's still an ongoing investigation. But
did she report the rape to any school staff?
No, that was reported to her parents, and that was reported to Bargersville Police Department. Okay. And they're investigating that because it happened outside of school. However, this female student is still being harassed. Well, I guess not still being harassed in schools out. Right. Up until school concluded for the year, the female student was being harassed by that male student's friends, was being called all kinds of derogatory names, was being said that she was a liar. They were trying to get her to change her story, to recant her story, which is also illegal. It's called witness tampering.
Right.
And that should have also been reported to law enforcement, or, you know, at a minimum, it should have been told to the parents. And everything the parents have heard has been second party. That the school has had no communication with the parents.
Wow. So the school never reported?
No.
Wow.
And instead of involving law enforcement, instead of involving DCS, the school used their own counselors, their own social workers, pulled the freshman student into a private room and electronically recorded an interview twice without parent permission, without parent notification. And it wasn't until after it had concluded and the student said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, did you know this happened today?" That's a violation of parent rights.
Wow.
Police officers can't do that. What makes the school think that they can?
Yeah.
They have no right to do that. You know, just when you think that the school can't get any worse and that it can't cross the line anymore, it goes running past the line.
I mean, they have this mindset like they are dictators. Like they can decide what is right, what is wrong.
They think that they're governing their own fiefdom and that they can make the rules up as they go.
Right. I mean, especially when you talk about they changed the rule to basically shut the parents out.
Yeah. Yeah. And July 1st, there's a new law that goes into effect that's supposed to give parents more rights when it comes to public comments during board meetings.
Mm.
But it's not black and white as to specifically the public comments can be any range of topics. So until that issue comes up and there's some precedent set, it'll be a waiting game in July to see how that really plays out.
So what prompted that policy?
Honestly, I think that it was a combination of mask mandates, because it was about the time of the mask mandates that the original policy was changed under Jack Russell.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, Joe Hubbard was the vice president, and he was talking to all the parents about how, he didn't agree with it. He actually approached me and offered up to $1,000 to help buy signs to put all along Stones Crossing Road about, hit the road, Jack, and how we had to get Jack Russell off the school board, and that he was willing to help me run for school board, and we just had to get rid of Jack Russell. And then rumors started to spread that the rest of the board didn't want Joe Hubbard to be president because he was too pro-parent. So he kind of backed off, and he became president of the school board in January. And as soon as he became the school board president, he completely changed from everything he said that he was going to be. He's no longer pro-parent.
Wow.
So either he completely changed his mind, or it was just a lie.
Okay.
Just politics.
Yeah. What happened to Jack Russell?
Well, he's still there. His term isn't up until the end of the year. He holds one of the seats that's up for election in November.
Okay.
This last school board meeting, he was there remotely.
So did he step down from?
No. So each position on the board is only for a year, and
okay.
they rotate.
Okay.
So his time as president was up, but he still holds a seat on the board.
Okay, got you.
So Joe Hubbard became the president, and he changed one of the things that actually made it harder for parents to speak. Under Jack Russell, you could only talk about agenda items, but the agenda items were still pretty easy to find something to talk about.
Okay.
What Joe Hubbard's done is he's kind of consolidated a lot of the hot button issues under consent items. So all of the issues of substance are discussed in the closed door executive sessions.
Oh.
So now the only things that are really discussed at the public meetings are, I actually have the last agenda here in front of me, are personnel reports, accounts payable, payroll, field trip reports, and then the consent vote. And the action items were approval for the 1028 hearing for the high school and Center Grove Elementary, approve the sale of refunding bonds, adoption of textbooks and materials, and approval of the 22-23 textbook rental and fees, and bids for renovations of Education Services Center.
Okay.
So all the controversial issues, all the matters of substance, those are all discussed behind closed doors, that they never see the light of day. No one really knows what's going on. And, you know, this, the issue with the failure to report, the issue with the inappropriate touching and the student that was ultimately raped because no one bothered to mention anything to the parents, law enforcement, DCS, so no one knew. We tried to bring this up at the community tour, the kind of town hall style meeting. Mm-hmm. Email went out that it was canceled due to lack of interest. Well, it was scheduled and everyone that had registered to attend, it was still on that day until 2 hours after the father of the victim notified that he intended to come. 2 hours later, it was canceled due to lack of interest.
Wow.
Coincidence.
Wow. And Joe's term is up, right, this year?
Yes.
Okay. So he and Jack.
Joe Hubbard, Jack Russell, and Scott Alexander. Those are the 3 seats that are up for election in November. Okay. So not only they make any change, they basically double down and not. I still don't quite understand their mindset. This is we live in a free country, right? And these people just behave like like they are in communist China or, or Russia or Cuba. Like they think they can basically dictate everything. They decide they just can shut parents off. Like in your case, they use the police to escort you out. Yeah. And in all fairness, us parents, we bear some responsibility because before COVID, before the hybrid learning, the board meetings weren't very, very heavily attended.
Right. Yeah.
You might have had 3 or 4 parents,
right.
But for the most part, the vast majority of parents didn't really care what was going on in their children's schools. That they were asleep. That as long as they weren't hearing from schools, they weren't getting phone calls home, letters home. Right. Schools weren't in the news. No news was good news. As long as little Johnny and Susie were getting passing grades, whatever. But when students were forced to learn from home and parents were hearing and seeing the lessons, it kind of opened their eyes and they said, I'm not okay with some of what's being taught. Maybe I need to go to a meeting and hear more. Right. And then parents started becoming more and more involved and they wanted a seat at the table. Right. And the administrators and the boards didn't like that. Right. They didn't want to be held accountable. They didn't want to answer questions. They viewed parents as an annoyance. Right. That they shouldn't have to tolerate. Right. Yeah. The board members, they are elected and they are there to support our parents, right? Right. And the taxpayers, they are there to make sure everything is running as expected. But they somehow they and the superintendent became, just like someone who, in a way, kind of like the politicians, right? Yeah, and he's not even a permanent employee. He's a contractor. Who is the contractor? The superintendent. He's not even a permanent employee. Mm-hmm. But most of, I think the school board, they just rubber stamp whatever the superintendent says. For the most part. Yeah, at least all the, most of the school boards in and around Indianapolis. As far as I know. And it seems that's kind of the rule instead of exception. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go to the school board audit website, you can actually see the voting history of the Center Grove School Board. And it's interesting to see who and how many times they actually voted no on anything that was presented.
Right. Yeah.
You can count on one hand how many no votes were cast in the last decade.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, they were elected the school board members, but they didn't do as they didn't they didn't do what they are supposed to. I mean, they are responsible for parents, but they just didn't do their work.
Right. And with the whole COVID stuff, because one of the school board members is an attorney, and what they said in one of the meetings that we had with him was that he was busy and it was inconvenient for him to meet constantly. They, as in the board, gave Dr. Arkanoff kind of broad authority to manage the opening plan or reopening plan as he saw fit and make whatever changes that he needed. They gave him that authority without a vote.
Wow.
So he could make changes kind of on the fly. He didn't need to wait till a board meeting or call an emergency board meeting or a special board meeting, or even send a round of emails to say, hey, are you guys okay with this? Can we get a quick yay or nay?
Right.
Or just document something. If he said, hey, starting Monday, everyone's wearing masks, or hey, effective Monday, no more masks.
Okay.
Or, come Wednesday, everyone has to wear green shirts. They had unanimously given him that authority, and they never rescinded it.
Wow.
Well, and that happened last year.
Right. Well, I mean, I think
so an unelected official had that kind of power over our schools, our tax-funded schools, and over our children.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have the right to ask questions.
Exactly. Well, I think it's clear the only way to change things is actually to replace the school board members. And hopefully that this time parents are going to pay attention.
We hope so. Education is so important, both for our children and for us. You have to educate yourself on who's running, what they stand for, whether they vote for me or they vote for you or they vote for one of the other candidates.
Right.
Know who's on the ballot. Know
right.
what those people stand for, what they bring to the table, why they're running, what they believe in, and know who you're voting for.
Right.
So many times people in Indiana, they vote straight party. And because school board officials don't declare a party, by the time you've picked whether you're going to vote Republican or Democrat, you get down to school board officials and judges, and you're like, oh, well, I don't even know who these people are.
Right.
And, well, I got to pick 3 of them. So it's just click, click, click. And then you're just, all right, well, now I got to pick judges, click, click, click. And then, all right, am I done now? Submit. And you just leave, and you don't even know who you voted for.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess that's our fault, right? We let it happen. So I hope that this time we'll do our homework and make sure we vote the right people. Yeah. I was kind of like that before, like you just vote like straight party line, but I learned my lesson this time. I have to make sure I understand the person who is supposed to, they say anything you want to hear, right? But
Joe Hubbard's a perfect example. Told everybody he was pro-parent. He stood up there in front of everybody and said, this is the people's building. This is the people's board. This is the people's seat. And I respect you guys and I work for you guys. And then as soon as he became the president, calls the cops if you utter one sentence that he doesn't want to hear, shut you down. You're trespassing.
Wow.
That's not working for the people.
No, and
not respecting the people.
And that's a school board meeting. It's open to the public and the parents there. I mean, how could you say those people are trespassing?
Yeah,
Just like
the sheriff deputy said, I had no contractual interest there. I said, how do I not? I have 3 children that go to these schools.
Yeah.
I pay taxes that keep the lights on in these buildings.
Exactly. Wow.
I vote to put these people in their seats.
Wow.
But I have no interest.
Wow. Well, I hope you will contact the Attorney General's office, and after all, your rights get violated.
Yeah, they absolutely did. I plan on filing a complaint. I plan on getting a copy of the police report too, and to see exactly what was reported.
On you?
Yes.
Right.
And I'm going to look up the actual Indiana code. Mm-hmm. And I may be speaking with the prosecutor. And if a false police report was filed, then I may be pursuing that as well.
Right.
Because if we don't stand up for our rights, we're giving our rights away.
Exactly.
And I served in the military, and many of my brothers and sisters have died to ensure that we have these rights.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. I mean, you have basically put your life on line for this country and for our freedom. And it's just shameful that they treat you like that. I mean, I hope that more parents are aware of what's happened. I mean, I do my part to kind of bring that awareness, but I hope that everyone at least in the Central Grove School District heard about this.
Yeah, I've spoken to other folks from other school districts, and I don't know if you've seen the news lately. There's lawsuits popping up all over the country for similar issues.
Yeah.
And other news, other elections that have been going on from the midterms through current, boards are flipping more and more conservative because parents all across the country are tired of this treatment.
Exactly. Yeah, even in like places like California and East Coast, there are a lot of parents and stepping up. And also not just, people on the right, a lot of people actually on the left, the parents, they see what's happening. They don't like it because the whole thing, like the CRT, the, social emotional learning, everything, it's really just make things worse. And we have data to back it up, right? Like last year, our I-Learn pass rate is actually less than 30%. So just.
Yeah, if you go to my my Facebook campaign page, I've got some graphics on there from the Department of Education, the Indiana Department of Education. Our test scores, I have the states and Center Groves on there for a side-by-side comparison. We've been on a decline for the last decade.
Right. And nobody's holding accountable for that.
Right. And a lot of people just use the excuse, oh, well, the whole state's in a decline. Well,
no.
Do we want to be as bad as everyone else?
Right. No.
People pay a premium to live in the Center Grove area.
Yep.
And Center Grove isn't a township. It's not a city, a village, a municipality. It's a school district.
Right.
It's not even on the map anywhere. Center Grove only exists as a school district.
Right.
And the people that come to this area because of our schools.
Exactly.
And if our schools are failing the same as IPS or Warren or Ben Davis or Pike or any of the others, why should they pay a premium to live here?
Right.
Yeah. What makes Center Grove so special? Why can't they pay a substantial amount less and live on the other side of 31 and go to Clark Pleasant?
Right. Yeah. Well, really, thank you for your willingness to, step out, to run for the school board. And I hope that things will change this year. to get the right people onto a school board that we can do something about our school.
Yeah, I owe it to our children. I owe it to my
Right.
children. You know, I have children ranging from 9 years old to 16 years old. And, you know, it may be not enough time to steer things back in the right direction for my incoming junior, but hopefully for my incoming fourth grader, by the time
right.
they're looking at middle school and high school, maybe things will be back on track and our test scores will be going back up.
Right.
And some of the craziness will be subsiding.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't realize it because Center Grove tries to keep it out of the media and keep the information suppressed as much as possible. We had a student overdose in one of the bathrooms right before spring break.
Wow.
So we have students overdosing in our school bathrooms. We had a student assaulted. I heard measures have been taken to correct it, but you can speak to a lot of high school teachers. There used to be a hallway in the high school that was known as the rape hallway. So this sexual assault, this isn't the first one.
Oh, wow.
You know, there's all kinds of drug use and vaping and everything else, things that I had no idea about when we moved to the area. Had I known about those things, might not have moved to the area.
All right. Wow.
I know when I built my house, I could have built the exact same house in Franklin for $30,000 less. But I came to Center Grove because of the schools.
Right.
I wanted the best for my children.
Right. Yeah. Well, Center Grove
is still available.
Yeah, Center Grove, I mean, historically has a good reputation as a good school.
Right.
Yeah, I just like a lot of things happening, just people are not aware of. So, how many children you have?
I have three.
Three. Okay. Are they all in Center Grove?
They are.
Right. Okay. So you guys are incoming junior, then you have incoming fourth grader.
So I have an incoming fourth grader, an incoming freshman, and an incoming junior.
Okay, gotcha. Wow, so you have...
Real quick, before the school board meeting went sideways, I do want to give credit where credit is due. The school board did an excellent job recognizing some of the successes of students.
That's good.
Before things went sideways.
Okay.
Our robotics team went to a big national tournament.
Oh, wonderful.
Actually, it may have been world. They were finalists in that. They did an excellent job. I know you and I have spoken before. The STEM fields are kind of where careers are going in the future.
Right. Yeah.
And so Center Grove is a leader in that space. So I commend them in that. We also had some of our singers that were recognized. We also had food and nutrition represented there, where they went to a national cooking competition and they competed. I think this is the first time, and they did a great job there. Chef Greer took them there. That was an excellent job that they did. Excellent program. My daughter, she's done the food and nutrition program at the high school. She loves it. My son's wanting to do it next year as well. So we have a lot of excellence in our students, and I was glad that they were recognized. And I was worried when the sheriff's department showed up and they killed the video feed, that video wasn't going to be posted and those students wouldn't get their moment. Okay. Because not everyone's family can attend. And I didn't want the issue that happened to take away from those students. So I was really thankful that those students did get their moment of recognition, because it's unfortunate that a lot of our students and families feel like if you're not an athlete, you don't get recognized at Center Grove. And while, as you can tell from the background that I have behind me, I love our sports programs. You know, my son's been a football player and a wrestler. I played rugby and I wrestled myself. My daughter played basketball and volleyball for a while, and my youngest played soccer. You know, we love sports at our house, but there's so much more going on at Center Grove, and I was really happy to see that those outstanding achievements were highlighted as well.
Right, right.
So while I am very critical of some of our shortcomings, I do want to give credit where credit is due, and I think that it was excellent that excellence in other areas other than sports were recognized.
Right, and you have the stake. You are a stakeholder. I mean, you are trying to make the school better, and I think we all want to make school better. So it's just unfortunate that there are how the school board can treat us parents. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the interview, and thank you for your service in the military, and really appreciate that you are running for the school board. Yeah, and I mean, I plan to run, but I do want to see more parents, you know, step out, because I mean, parents have the, how to say, they know what's going on. They have the kids in the school. They understand how the school experience. So I do want to see there are more parents that they are willing to, you know, make some sacrifice, you know, just to present parents on the school board. All right, thank you so much.
Not a problem, anytime.
Yep, bye.